Good morning. This is Laure Rosauer, and I'm joined this morning by Tom Mroczkowski, who is a supervisor on the town board. He is currently in this position and was appointed in May of last year by the chairman for his vacant seat. Tom is running again to stay on the board, and we are going to have a conversation this morning to share his insights and thoughts and positions on issues affecting the town. To get underway, Tom, could you just give us a brief introduction and give us some insight as to why you want to continue to serve on the board?
Sure. Good morning, Lori. Thanks for having me this morning, and thanks for making the time and presenting the opportunity. I'm Tom Mroczkowski. My wife Judy and I have lived here in Waterford, the town of Waterford, since 2016, and I have had an interest, once we moved out here, in gaining a better understanding of who the leadership was in the town and what the plans and vision were for the town and how to move it forward. So I started attending town board meetings, getting engaged and just trying to get a feel for what was going on. That really led me to a point of feeling as though there were gaps in the leadership that I saw, most certainly with respect to any sort of vision or strategy in terms of how the town was really going to move forward. So I expressed an interest back in 2013, or 2023, excuse me, expressing an interest in a role on the town planning commission at that time, as an opportunity to maybe have a voice to help shape the direction of where the town was going. And I was appointed to the planning commission by the town chair at that time in 2013, began my service on the planning commission at that time. And then, as you pointed out, in May of last year was appointed by the new town chair to fill his vacant seat and serve out the remainder of his seat. So I'm running because I have learned, maybe confirming my initial instincts all the way back to 2016, that there's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done in this town to get it moving in a positive direction into the future. And I feel that that's something that I want to continue to be part of and to help shape the direction of the town going forward. So the last year in this role has been certainly a big education for me in getting a deeper understanding of where the town is at and what needs to be done. In some respects, I feel like I've just sort of scratched the surface on the work that I could be doing. So I'm going to take a run and see whether or not the electorate agrees with my positions and see if I get elected to the seat next year in April.
Thank you. You just mentioned that you were on the planning commission, but could you share some other insights into your experience and that would qualify you in a leadership role that goes beyond just that of being on the planning commission?
Sure. I'll start out by saying that I have no background or experience in municipal government up until what I started doing with the planning commission a couple of years ago. I retired in 2022 after a 40-plus year career in the corporate world, mostly in financial services and specifically in information technology. I'm an IT professional by training and experience. My last 20 years of my career were spent with Northwestern Mutual here locally in Milwaukee in senior leadership roles in the IT department at Northwestern Mutual. In those roles, I gained a tremendous amount of experience in terms of managing large, complex projects, team building, development of people, growing people into leadership roles, and taking over different teams and organizations during that time, many of which needed what might be understood as a business turnaround, things that were failing and in trouble and needed to be set on good footing and move forward in a positive direction. Those experiences, I think, have equipped me for similar types of challenges that we now face in the town. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but complex problems that require creative solutions and collaborative work by lots of different people who might not always agree. I have a lot of experience in working my way through those types of situations. So I think my years in the corporate world and in leadership positions in that environment have started to translate to the problem space of municipal government and the kind of challenges that we're facing.
Awesome, thank you. So now I want to turn to, what are some of the specific issues that you see facing our town that need to be addressed? And if you do see any issues, what are the solutions you would recommend to address them?
There's a lot there. I would say probably at the top of the list for me is, I believe that the town of Waterford has a serious revenue problem. You know, when people look at the town budget and start to unpack the budget, it's natural for them to go to the expense side of the ledger and start, you know, picking through the expenses and questioning various things. And that's appropriate, and people should do that. And there's always opportunity within the expense world to optimize and maximize your efficiencies and to get better at managing your expenses. There's a lot less attention paid to the revenue side of the equation, and I think that's where some of our biggest challenges are. The town tax levy has been virtually flat for the last 11 years. The average tax levy over the last 11 years is about $2.1 million. For this current fiscal year that we're in, it's about $2.3 million. If you average that back over 11 years, that's very, very, very minimal growth in terms of revenue. So it begs the question, well, why is that? And from my perspective, it's because there really is no growth of any kind, no development, no innovation within the town. We're basically just spinning our wheels and treading water as a community in terms of development within the town. And there's no vision, there's no strategy, there's no plan, and there's no activity to drive growth or development of any kind. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not here advocating for, you know, bulldozers running rampant all over the town. I mean, I value in a significant way the rural type atmosphere that we have, the natural resources that we have, and the things that make this town what it is and why so many people love living here. But you can't have no development whatsoever year after year for decades, actually, with nothing happening to increase your property tax base, to drive revenue that's going to align with the service expectations, let alone the realities of inflation that impact the expense side of the equation. You have to have a plan to grow revenue. This would be like, you know, any of us being in a job that you never get a raise, you never get an increase in your pay, and yet your household expenses continue to go up year after year after year after year. how do you survive in that situation? So the biggest issue for me is finding ways to begin to grow revenue in this town that isn't saddled on the backs of the existing taxpayers in this town. That is significant. And I believe that there are ways to do that. First and foremost, you have to put people in place that are professionally trained and know how to do that. And I will tell you, as it stands today, there is no one working for the town who has those credentials. We have no town administrator, okay? There's no one that we have professionally hired with the skills oriented to lead that kind of work. The board doesn't have it. I will tell you straight and forward, I don't have the professional training and background to do that kind of work, but I recognize that it needs to be done. So we have to bring on the talent to enable us to do that and to set goals towards those ends. That's first and foremost. You have to have people who can do the job, and we don't have people that are able to do the job. Now, how you do that in an environment where the expense side of the equation is as tight as it is, we have to figure that out. We have to get creative in terms of the way that we do that. I don't have a clear answer on how to do that yet, but it needs to happen because the current situation with the people that we have leading the town and working for the town are not going to get us different results. And then whoever we put in place to do that work has to work with the board to set a vision, a strategy, and an action plan toward economic development in this town. So that's number one. I have a couple of other things that I would just add to that. The lack of professional skills that are needed to drive the proper kind of growth that we want. And when I say the proper kind of growth, I'm talking about growth that enhances the values of this community that all of us love so much. Things that bring business to the town that are the kinds of businesses that enhance the quality of life that we have. Commercial businesses that are businesses that families desire and want in this community. We need that kind of development in an appropriate pace, which is not lightning speed, but an appropriate pace to grow that revenue base over time. The other thing that I have observed is, and this is sort of a natural equation of all of these problems kind of drive together. If you're running on a fixed budget year after year, decade after decade, and yet the volume of work continues to go up, the expectation for services and the volume of work continues to go up, you have limited employee resources that are able to actually get that work done. So you continue to pile more and more and more onto their plate, which is inappropriate and runs out of gas at some point in time. So my observation is we have employees who are significantly stressed with the work level that they need to support across the board in a number of areas within the town. And we need to provide a way to support them. We need to provide a way to expand our resources to better meet the service expectations that this community has. And that should be a priority for us because we cannot continue to ask the same people to do more year after year after year. Bottom line, I've been here for 10 years. This town has basically been run with what I would call a keep the lights on kind of mentality, the bare minimum. Do the bare minimum, expect the bare minimum, that's what you get. That's not, we're out of runway on that. There's nowhere else to go with it. Look at our roads, look at our buildings, look at our infrastructure. There's nowhere else to go. We have to change the way that we're approaching how we're moving this town forward.
You know, I want to follow up on one statement you made that I thought was interesting, and that is attracting the types of businesses that would be of value to the members of the residents of the town.
Yeah.
How would you go about identifying those types of businesses?
Well, there's a couple of different things. Number one, again, going back to the point that you need people with the training and skills and qualifications to be able to go out there and do that. And they need to build relationships with the other entities within the region to help drive those kinds of opportunities. One of those entities is the Racine County Economic Development Corporation. Okay, there's an organization that we as a town could partner with and leverage their services to open opportunities that would make the town attractive to businesses and others that might want to invest in the town. It's about building relationships with other entities. Again, the Economic Development Corporation is one opportunity to do that. I think that there are others out there as well. So it's a combination of having the professional skills on staff within the town and an ability to have those individuals develop relationships with other entities to make the town attractive for the kind of development that would be valuable here.
Excellent. So my next question was going to be to ask you whether or not the town has an adequate budget, but you've already answered that.
Okay.
So let's move on to your position on the cooperative boundary agreement. Now, it's my understanding that in 2023, you and two others, along with a team of 3 from the village, were appointed to work together to develop a cooperative boundary plan under the guidance of state statutes to enable the town and village to work together without conflict and to put plans around growth. It's also my understanding that you and others worked tirelessly on this for 2 years, and that it was apparently, I believe it was passed by vote in the village, but did not pass in the town. And I was wondering if you, especially since you've got so much in-depth knowledge on it, could you please help us understand your position on it and whether or not you think it's something that needs to be revisited?
Great. Yes. Yes, I was intimately involved in the development of the cooperative boundary plan. One correction to the intro that you gave there. Yes, it was myself, Supervisor Garkey, Supervisor Schwartz that represented the town. We worked with 2 individuals from the village, not 3. That was then President Don Houston and current village president Adam Jaski in developing that cooperative boundary plan. It was a great team effort. Hundreds of hours were invested. We worked through very, very difficult and tough issues. I think it's important to set some context around why did the town and the village decide to pursue a cooperative boundary plan? Because these are opportunities that are chartered by state statute, as you mentioned. There's many of them in place across the state of Wisconsin between municipalities. Why did the town and village of Waterford decide to do this? It goes back to some very unfortunate things that happened a number of years ago, rooted in the town of Waterford's, in my opinion, ill-conceived, ill-fated, and financially irresponsible decision to try to incorporate as a village, thereby landlocking the current village of Waterford from expanding any of its borders whatsoever. And then the village of Waterford retaliating, if you will, passing an ordinance that restricted any growth within its extraterritorial zoning area, which is 1.5 miles out from its borders, into the town, limiting any land divisions to 20 acres or more, which really boxes in town landowners within that. So you had bad decisions on the part of the town, met with bad decisions on the part of the village, and significant bad blood that resulted. between the two entities. And back in 2023, someone, I'm not exactly sure, either from the town or the village, decided to offer the potential olive branch of saying, hey, wait a minute, time out. Why don't we all enter into developing a cooperative boundary plan, put all of this stuff behind us, work together as municipalities in partnership towards a brighter future for both entities together. That was the basis for going into the corporate or the cooperative boundary plan. It was authorized and decided to move forward at a joint meeting of both boards back in July of 2023, and then the individuals that we talked about were asked to go forward and do the negotiation and hard work and drafting of the plan, which would then go to both municipal boards for a vote and hopefully approval. So that's what got us to where we did. We worked on that for 2 years, as mentioned, hundreds of hours invested. We held multiple community listening sessions to get community input and answer questions and keep the community informed of the progress that was being made throughout that entire process. I stood before the town board month after month providing an update on progress report and an overview of what was coming next in the process going forward. There were a lot of good things that were baked into that. It went well beyond resolving this whole incorporation extraterritorial zoning thing, which it did resolve, and terms were put forward and negotiated in there that resolved those issues to the mutual benefit of both the town and the village. And there were many, many other things in terms of revenue sharing agreements and infrastructure development agreements, and decisions to put in place a joint strategic planning committee that would work together on an ongoing basis to develop a strategic plan, going back to my prior response or prior answer, to help both the village and the town move forward collectively together into a brighter future that benefited the greater Waterford area. So a lot of goodness baked into that, a lot of things that I think I feel would be in the very, very strong beneficial interest of this area overall. At the end of the day, the village board voted unanimously multiple times to accept the cooperative boundary plan and go forward. The town was less, the town board was less enthusiastic about it, and ultimately decided to vote it down, citing concerns that there were provisions in the cooperative boundary plan that essentially mortgaged town landowner rights, which I strongly disagree with. There were provisions baked into the cooperative boundary plan that protected the integrity of the plan for years to come, regardless of who the leadership changes were on the part of both municipalities. But giving away town landowner rights, in my opinion, was not one of those elements. At the end of the day, the town gained back full development jurisdiction over 2,500 and some acres that are currently under village control, and the town board decided that that was not what it wanted to do. So it was, in my opinion, an unfortunate decision. I would love to see the cooperative boundary plan brought back. We can bring it back for further work if both municipalities decide to do that, and I would be strongly in favor of doing that.
So that gives me a follow-up question to this. When you say bringing it back for further work, what is the process, or do you know the process by which it would need to be addressed in the future in order for it to be placed in front of the municipalities for a vote?
Correct. Yeah, essentially the way, at a high level, the way the state's process works is there is a defined process for the start and the end of these things. The clock has run out on the old process that we started a couple years ago. So that is done, over with, it is ended, and then from the state's perspective, nothing moved forward. So the process would be both municipal boards would need to pass new authorizing resolutions. The way the process starts is the two boards, each of their own accord, pass an authorizing resolution to say, hey, we're going to move forward to work together on a cooperative boundary plan, and then that starts the state's stopwatch or clock, if you will, on a set of steps that need to happen in moving that forward. So that would need to happen, is those authorizing resolutions would need to be passed again, and we would need to take a run at it again. Now, the good news is you've got hundreds of hours worth and 2 years worth of work that's already been invested with on this. So it's not like we're starting from a blank sheet of paper anymore. So presumably, if we were to reinvigorate it and restart it again, it could move much faster than it moved the last time.
Excellent, thank you. I appreciate the insight on that.
Yeah.
And the detail. I think that the voters are going to benefit deeply from learning about this. So let's move on now to what is your stance regarding the policing services currently in Waterford?
Yeah, great question. So I'll start by saying, in my opinion, it was heartbreaking to watch and experience what happened over the last couple of years in terms of the divisive nature of this dialogue and what happened with the policing services and how the different camps entrenched themselves and what happened as it relates to that. I watched it from my seat in the positions that I was in. My conclusion is this. This community, the town of Waterford, strongly wants local policing. Even if it's more expensive than alternatives. I go out and I ask people when they think about their policing services and what they're looking for, what's most important to them. Most people say, first and foremost, they want good cops. Okay? They want good cops. They want honest cops, trustworthy cops. They want professionalism, trustworthiness. They want fast response. They want visibility. They want vigilance on the part of their law enforcement, and they want accountability within the department. What people don't say is, I want the low-cost alternative. Give me the least expensive law enforcement that I can get. Town board, go shop the market and find me the lowest cost option that I can get. No, that's not what people say. They want those other things. A local police department, well run, with those virtues and those characteristics that I described, are a huge element of community identity and a significant sense of civic pride for a community. It means a lot to the people to have that. And it means a lot to me as a leader within the community to move us in the direction towards that. I believe that we've taken some significant steps forward in moving us in that direction. There is no doubt, in my opinion, that things needed to change within the historical department that existed within the town. Change and transformation of this nature to this extent are always very, very difficult to go through, but I think we're coming out the other side of that into a better future with new leadership that has us pointed in the right direction. And I'm strongly in favor of what's happening now with the Waterford Police Department.
Okay. Thank you. So moving on, we've touched base on this. You've had the opportunity to work closely with leadership in the village. What is your opinion of our current working relationship with the village, and do you see any opportunity for change?
Absolutely. I love working with the village. I have a tremendous amount of respect for village leaders. I believe that there is much more that we could be doing as a town to work collaboratively with the village on opportunities that benefit both municipalities. We need to do more of that. And one of the things that, and this kind of goes back to the question about the budget and looking for budget opportunities and those kinds of things. The state of Wisconsin is incenting municipalities to work together collaboratively to solve problems. The Wisconsin Department of Revenue has something that's called an Innovation Grant Program. $300 million of grant funding available to municipalities who decide to work together in collaborating to solve mutual problems together. Things similar to municipalities where we see fire departments merging together, or police departments working together, or optimized relationships between public works departments and other types of things. There's significant grant money on the table from the state for communities to work together in that way. Well, you gotta ask yourself, well, why? Part of it might be because the state isn't funding tax levies anymore and allowing communities to raise their tax levies, thereby restricting revenue in other parts of the equation, but now is providing grant incentives to say, you know what, communities, you have to get creative in terms of how you work together and look for opportunities to work better together. Laure, I'll tell you, I think we have significant opportunity to do that more with the village, and I wish we would do more of it. In the last budget cycle, I had proposed working together with the village to share Department of Public Works leadership structure, where the town would not have had to hire another full-time DPW supervisor position. And we would leverage the leadership of the village DPW in working collaboratively with the town and moving our DPW together. In my opinion, that would have saved the town $50,000 a year minimally in going forward. Others on the town board did not agree with me that that was a good idea at this point in time, but and maybe there are things that could have been done to make it even better, but those kinds of things, seeking the opportunity to build a joint police department with the village, which would benefit both municipalities in a huge way. Everything that I've seen in working with village leaders is the arms are open to work together. They want to work together with us. I believe the town should embrace those opportunities and do more of that. I have never understood in my 10 years within this community this whole sort of undercurrent of village versus town, town versus village thing. You will do our thing, you do your thing, and let's not get in each other's business. I've never understood it, because the vast majority of people that I work with, live with, and am neighbors with out here believe they live in Waterford. Mm-hmm. That's what they think. That's the way it feels. That's what they want. I'm not suggesting that we turn the page and create the city of Waterford together and just collapse everything down into one. But man, there's huge opportunities to work together in ways that we are not doing today.
Thank you. I appreciate your insight. Now I'm going to move on to a couple of different areas and would like you to please provide your thoughts on our fire and EMS services for one. What's your position on that currently? Because it's my understanding the village has a fire and EMS, we have a fire and EMS. Do you have any thoughts about those two?
I think it's an opportunity to be looked at to combine them and optimize the way that they work together. Okay. There's been talk of creating a fire district on and off over years and years and years. I think that's something that should be pursued in a meaningful way. Again, those grant dollars are out there from the state, just waiting to be leveraged on those kinds of things. We could take advantage of that. I think we need to get serious about those conversations.
Okay. So it's my understanding that we have not done a town-wide property tax assessment since 2008. And you will be discussing that at this evening's board meeting. And I think there is a plan in place to go ahead and move forward on doing an assessment. The town fell out of compliance in 2023, and the state gives us a 5-year window to do this.
Right.
So what is your thought on the current situation on property tax assessments, as well as, normally the state recommends, I spoke with the Department of Revenue, that we look at this about every 5 years and consider doing some sort of an update so that municipalities do not go for 18 years, because property values have changed in the town since 2008. So what are your thoughts about the current circumstances and where we go from here?
Well, I think the current circumstances are very unfortunate and completely of our own making. The fact that we're in a situation where we haven't had a full town-wide reassessment for 18 years has put us in a position where we have the inequities that exist from neighbor to neighbor in terms of property tax bills across the board. And the fact that we now have to fix that is going to cause pain for any number of people who they're going to see their property tax bills go up. The approach that we've taken in the past, for the last 18 years or whatever it's been, I think has been disingenuous to the community in that it built up a false sense of security about their property tax situation that now is going to come home to pay the piper, and there's no place else to go with this. So from my perspective, I think going forward, I think we need to reassess more frequently than the state's recommended 5-year. Every year or every other year, there should be a town-wide reassessment from the standpoint to make sure that the tax base on an equal basis is tracking with market trends, and that we're tracking with the realities of inflation. As inflation changes, you're in a situation where people whose tax bills have been relatively flat for years after years after years after years after years are now facing the fact that inflation has changed dramatically, and now you have to adjust to that. If we reassessed more often than that, that would be less of a big bite and a big hit to people.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your answer on that. Now, moving on, there has been discussion within the community about public input to the board.
Yeah.
At the board meetings primarily. So what is your position about engaging public input into the process of the town board working?
100% we need it. We should have it. Public comments should be allowed at every board meeting in every situation. I absolutely believe that that is what should be happening. I'm going to qualify that with some additional perspective. I will also say that based on my experience in talking to people, most people don't understand what public comments means, okay? A board giving the public the opportunity to provide public comments is specifically that, an individual having the opportunity to stand up and address the board with their comments on an issue that is on the current board agenda. It's not any old issue that you want to bring to the table. It needs to be on the agenda. The other thing that people need to understand, and that I've learned in the process, is public comments doesn't mean public Q&A with the board in that moment. Public comments doesn't mean I want to get up and I want to debate with the board and the board's going to debate with me in that moment. That's not what public comments is. Public comments is you have the opportunity to say your piece on a particular item that's on the agenda. If you have questions, if you want to debate and engage board members on items with discussion, there's avenues to do that. Email the board, call your board members, talk with them prior to the meeting or in another setting. But in those board meetings, that's not within the context of public comments. But absolutely 100%, our board meetings should have a point for public comments in every single board meeting.
And I want to stress though the point you made that I thought was interesting, and it needs to be tied to the agenda.
It has to be tied to the agenda. People need to understand that the protocol is you can't just bring whatever might be, grinding your beans on that particular day to the board meeting for public comments. If it's not an item on the agenda, it's not an open topic for public comments.
Thank you. As we're wrapping up, you've given us some very helpful insights in terms of your positions and where you see the town and where you see the town going, but are there any other thoughts about areas that we didn't touch base on, the topics that we picked, that you would like the voters to understand are of importance to you to help them know more about you as they go out to vote during the primary and general election?
Well, a couple things just in closing. As you can tell from my positions on stuff, I'm seeing a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done. A tremendous amount of work that needs to be done to take this town and this community forward into the future. This town supervisor gig is not like a couple hours a month. I spent my career working 50 to 60 hour weeks in corporate America. Done right, this job is a big job that requires a significant investment in time if it's going to be done right. People need to understand and have expectations, and people who are looking at these positions need to understand and have expectations that there's a significant amount of time invested in order to do the work that needs to be done. It doesn't happen by just showing up for a couple meetings a month or a committee meeting here and there. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. At least that's the way that I feel about it, and the way that I personally approach this work and put myself into it. It's the only way that I know how to work. So that's an important point, and I think that the electorate needs to understand and have expectations that that's what they see from their leaders. My other position is that we need to move a heck of a lot faster than we're moving. A heck of a lot faster on any of the things that we've talked about today. We could move faster, we should move faster, whether it's collaborating with the village, whether it's any of the things that have been brought forward in terms of recommendations from the various town committees that exist and whatnot. We should be moving faster than we're moving today. And I feel a level of frustration that we're not, but I would like to see that change going forward. I would like to see faster movement.
Well, thank you. Well, I really want to thank you, Tom. You have been very informative, and I've learned from listening to you, and I hope you have as well. So don't forget to vote during the primary and the general election. And thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lori.